Running streak, day 5001. We're in New Jersey. It's 36 degrees, and I'm here in my trails because the soft surface is very important for your feet, especially as you get older like me, an old man. Pounding on the pavement really takes a toll. So I decided to make this video log of my running streak and document it. So I sent it to a few friends, and they had some questions. First question was, what is a running streak? I said, well, a running streak is you have to run a certain amount of miles every single day. You can't take a day off. So the minimum is 3 miles if you're in the running community. You can't just run around the block and say I have a running streak because I ran around the block. And you can't run a mile in the morning and then 2 miles at night. That doesn't count. You have to do 3 or more every day. So my friend called me up after watching the video. She said, well, what happened when you lost the running streak? I said, well, I got sick and then I couldn't run, so I took that day off. She said, well, why didn't you just run twice the next day to make up for it? You can't do that. Once you lose the running streak, it's over. And then she said, well, what happens next? And I said, well, you usually take some time off. So my first running streak was in like 95, 96. I didn't start the next one until like 98 or 99. But that doesn't mean I wasn't running in between. I was just running and taking days off, just maybe running 5 days a week or 4 days a week. So then she said, how do you run every day? How do you work that out? I said, well, you have to base your whole schedule about running. You can't just run when you remember or when you think about it or when the time allows. You have to plan your day to run. So a lot of times I try to run first thing in the morning so you don't, run into problems later in the day and then you won't be able to run. I remember in the first running streak when I was living in Florida, I was coming home for Christmas, so we flew to Miami to get a layover, and we were laid over all day. So we were there from 10 o'clock, and it was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. We didn't get out of there till like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We sat on the runway. Anyway, we didn't get home to Newark until like 11 o'clock. And if I hadn't gotten up at 5 o'clock that morning and run, I wouldn't have been able to keep the streak. I would have lost it because you can't run around the airport for 3 miles or while you're sitting on a plane. So, and then the funny thing happened on the way home, more problems with delays. We didn't get in until 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and I decided, I had run that morning, so I decided that I was going to take the next day off. So instead of going to bed at 11 o'clock, I stayed up till midnight, and then I ran, which midnight is the next day. So I finished my run at like 12:30, and then I went to bed, and then when I woke up, I felt like I had that day off, even though I technically ran on that day. And then she said, well, what do you do when you have bad weather? What if you have a snowstorm or a hurricane? I said, well, you just go run anyway. Hurricanes aren't so bad, they just rain mostly. Snowstorms are actually pretty good because nobody's on the road, so a lot of times you could run right down the middle of the road, there's no traffic. But if sidewalks aren't clear, if you don't have a place like that, if you live on a busy road, you start to search around parking lots and stuff. A lot of times corporate parking lots, if you have a business like an AT&T building or some other corporate business, they'll have the plows out early, so those parking lots will be cleared. So if you have one near your house, you go there and run. I luckily have one right over here, and that place gets cleared right away, so you can go run around the parking lot. There's no cars, and they're all done. When I lived up in Summit, there was a parking deck which came in handy when it would snow. It wasn't that big, it was maybe 3 or 4 floors. You just run up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're out of the weather, you're out of the snow, and you can totally get your run in without having to worry about getting hit by a car or slipping and falling in the snow or anything like that. So that's it for today. Ran 5.5 miles, mostly in the woods, minimal mud. So that was good. And I'll do another documentation tomorrow for 5002 days.